What is up, everybody? This is the PTA Inspire Series. I am the host and founder of PTA Elevation, Briana, and I am here with Dustin. Is it Hergert? Is that how you pronounce your last
Yeah,
name?
it's how you pronounce it. Yeah, Hergert.
Hergert. Okay, I was worried because people say my name wrong all the time, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so like if I say other people's name wrong. But anyways, I'm here with Dustin, and he just recently passed his exam in I almost said April, but that's the next one coming up. This
Right?
January. That's when you passed it. Oh my goodness. And so he's going to talk a little bit about his story. I love doing this Inspire series, so I would learn more about you guys because I don't always know everything, and I'm always surprised, and I'm like learning in real time along with the audience. So thank you so much for coming on the PTA Inspire series. I know you're going to inspire a lot of people.
Yeah. So I started my career by first becoming a caregiver for adults and children with disabilities years ago, and one of the responsibilities that I had was driving them to their PT appointments. I spent 7 years with my friend Christoph in DC, taking him to his appointment, and he has cerebral palsy, quadriplegic, nonverbal. And he'd gone to the same PT person for his entire life, and he was in his 30s. And this woman knew everything about working with children with disabilities and adults because of, she worked with them throughout their entire life. I thought it was amazing. So she would show me as a caregiver what to do with him when he was at home so that he was, spasticity didn't get so bad and stuff like that, and just how to work with him when he wasn't in the office. I thought it was really cool. Then I moved to Indiana, and I went and worked with a child with disabilities and started going with him to his PT and realized that there was a lot of differences, working with an infant versus working with an adult. And for some odd reason, I was sitting there talking to his PT, and she's like, "You'd be really good at this." I was like, "I'm in my 40s. Do I want to start school?" And I took the plunge. So I never went to college, but I did go to cosmetology school years and years ago. Didn't follow that career path, but decided to go try some classes out. And I started doing really well in class. I didn't think I was going to be very good at college, but I, did really well. Got into the PT program or PTA program, and spent those years driving an hour every day to and from. And then I graduated. Had a great class, had a great and amazing team, classmates that really lifted each other up. And I graduated, and like a week later, I moved to Washington, D.C. area. I took the exam as soon as I could, and I failed. I don't remember the percentage of what I had on that. I don't think I even looked at it. I was just really disheartened. And then I was determined to take it again, and I did, and I missed it by one question. That was my score. So that was really hard. And so, like Bree said, I just finally took it for the third time, and I passed. Oh, so yay. So that's how I'm here, where I am right now.
And that's awesome. So, I mean, I was just going to ask you about like your journey to becoming a PTA, but you hit it right on.
Yeah.
That was exactly where we were going.
Yeah.
That perfect. No, that's awesome. And so I just want to kind of ask a couple questions about
Sure.
Jen was in your class, right?
Jen was in my class, and Megan was in my class from the previous. So, yep.
That's awesome. They're really nice people. Yeah, you guys had a great cohort. I know a lot of you guys were reaching out to me, so that was a great group of people. And this is something I want to suggest to anybody listening to this. Always get a good group of people who, first of all, love and support you, and at least like some people who kind of know the struggle that is school.
Most definitely, especially if you're still in school,
Mhm.
get connected with everybody in your classroom, because lifting each other up really, I would never have passed the PTA program if I did not have the classmates that I had, because they were just so amazing, and we literally every single person worked together to make sure that everybody passed. So it's all about support.
I love that. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and especially afterwards. So, so you said school went fine, right?
Well, school was a little difficult. There was I had my own personal roadblocks through school. there, you know, it was, like I said, it was an hour drive. And so like the closest PTA program for our community college was an hour away. So driving back and forth took a lot of time, and then that took away from working. So actually, I went to school, and then during the nighttime, I was a caregiver. I worked for a program, and so I was the night shift, so I had to be awake during the night. So I was like barely getting any sleep during the 2 years that I was doing all this. But there were a couple of exams which I bombed, and there were a couple of exams which I aced. But yeah, school went really well. I was
Awesome.
excited.
I didn't know you were working night shift. See, I always learn new things.
Oh my gosh. Well, I worked 2 jobs. I worked night shifts, and I was also a gardener for a family, and then I also started my own business as a beekeeper, selling my own honey. So I was all over the place.
Wow. See, I just learned about the bee thing recently. Like the picture for the preview is you with your bees. That's awesome. I
Yeah.
love that. So,
Yeah.
just kind of getting into when it came to studying for the NPTE. So what'd you do the first time when you were studying?
Well, the first time like I said, I moved to Washington, D.C. And it was literally the day that I moved. Here's a little bee story. The day that I moved, the morning of, very early, I went to the house, the people that housed my bees. I took my U-Haul, my car, I was driving my car, you know, and I needed to put the actual hives in my car. And as I was doing that, as I was going back and forth from the backyard to the car, somebody broke into my car and stole my backpack, which was in my front seat. And my backpack contained my laptop, my iPad, my birth certificate, social security, all this stuff, including my muscle cards, which I had made by hand. Our school made our muscle cards by hand, and my NPT score builders study book. So I got to DC, and I was like, what am I gonna do? Luckily, again, great classmates. One of my classmates had an additional NPT score builders book, so he sent it to me. And I just started studying. I found your free website program, and I kind of listened to a lot of your videos then, but I just think I was a little like overwhelmed with moving and with everything just changing and not really knowing what I was doing with my life. I'd already found a job here in DC, and so I was kind of really trying to juggle so many balls, and I don't think I took the enough time to really focus on school or on the test. And being so far away from my classmates, it was a little harder for me to like be engaged and to like, you know, have a study group. So I'd go to the library and I'd sit for hours listening to videos, and I don't think I really was retaining all that information. Yeah.
And I think you brought up some good point. First of all, I did not know about the car situation. That's that's
Yeah.
terrible. I feel like stuff like that always happens. Like, first of all, it's terrible that happens, but of course it's gonna happen when like you're in the middle of moving, you're about to like have
Yeah.
career changes and stuff like that. Like it's like what's the rule, like Murphy's Law, where if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. Is that what it
Go
is?
wrong, it will go wrong. I think that's one. But yeah, if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. And that day kind of did. But yeah,
You made
yeah,
it through. Got
I
everything
made it through.
replaced. It's all okay.
I got everything replaced, and the bees are here in Indiana, or sorry, in DC, and so it's all, I'm still alive. So yeah, it was good.
That's a great way to look at it. And yeah, and so that also kind of brings me to another thing when I tell people like who are about to take the boards and they're like, well, I'm like getting married, I'm having a major event, I'm like having a baby or something like that. I'm just like, you might want to like move it and like give yourself time to go through this like major event, because it's going to consume a lot more of your time than you think it will. I mean, like if you want to drive yourself into the ground and just get it over with, and you're scoring, if you're scoring 700s on your practice test, just take it and move on. But if you feel like you need extra time, I tell people, you know yourself better than I do, so have that like self-reflection, because even if it's like, oh, let me take it and see how it feels, like that first failed with the X, even if you're like, oh, I was kind of expecting it not to go well, it does something to your psyche.
It definitely does. You get this like, you just get it's just a knocking down. You just don't know should I continue? Should I continue with this career? Should I continue with taking the exam? What am I doing with my life? So, but if you do fail the first time, just keep at it. Yes, you need to know, if you need to know yourself well enough to know whether or not you should have taken it right out of school. Some people shouldn't. I really do believe that. It depends on the school, depends on how you learn, whether or not you actually learned, or you just, passes. If you passed knowing the information, or you passed memorizing the information. So if you don't think that you should take the test right away, don't. Sit down and learn the material.
Mhm.
And I
And
think there was a lot of things in our school where we did learn, like we just memorized a lot of stuff. And so I think throughout this program of yours that I really learned how to actually apply the information.
Mhm. And that's something I see a lot of students struggle with. Even like in my PT class right now, I see people struggling with it, just the strict rogue memorization, regurgitate it for the exam and then move on. Like for this exam, you really do have to know the information inside and out, and it's so much application based, because it's not going to ask you a definition question. It's going to give you a scenario, and you have to know how to narrow down the scenario, and it's a whole different beast. And I tell people, because I know there's probably someone listening to this who's like, I did so well in school and now I'm struggling with this test. Well, I think one of the reasons could either be that memorization, regurgitation, or just that this test is so different than anything you'll see in school.
I continuously took the score builders exams over and over and over again. I thought, oh, you know what? This is the material that's going to be on here, and this is how they're going to ask these questions. I did not take the PEAT until this last time, when I failed the exam twice, and I realized that the score builders wasn't anything really like the actual exam. I didn't have to, utilize my brain as much, and I could also memorize. I could memorize the questions and answers. I mean, you get to a question on the score builders that you've answered like 6 or 7 times. You're like, I know that one. Oh yeah, of course. But you didn't actually learn the actual answer, or why it is what it is. The PEAT though, because you can't take it over and over again. I went through and I took it once and I passed barely, and I went through every single question, and then went through my score builders book for each question to learn the material. But I think, well, I don't even know where I was kind of
No,
trailing
you
off.
were doing great. People are probably taking notes.
Yeah, no, I was really, when I think I texted you this last time, earlier on, like, should I take the PEAT? And you were like, yes, Dustin, this is if you're going to take the PEAT, if you're going to take the exam, take the PEAT. Any practice exam, take the PEAT, because it is most likely the test. And then when I took the PEAT, I was like, oh my gosh, why did I not take this before? But yeah.
And that's why I tell everyone they need to take the PEAT. Like, I mean, if you're listening to this and you're like, should I buy Bree's test or buy the PEAT? Buy the PEAT every single time. Like, don't buy my stuff over the PEAT. Like, buy the PEAT. That is like NPTE study gold. Like, it's amazing. And that's why I force all my students to take it too. I'm like, if there's any supplemental materials, buy the PEAT. It is amazing. And exactly as you said, like, go through the score builders book, find the rationale, underline the parts that they keep talking about, because I tell people there's only X amount of questions. I'm giving away a lot of information for free, but there's only X amount of questions that the boards can ask you. And if you understand what the rationale is behind some of the questions that they have on the PEATs, and get to one on the exam, you'll know. It'll just they'll switch the words and say which one's not true, and then switch a couple of answers. You know what I mean?
No, most definitely. So
that's why I tell people always take the PEAT. So what do you feel like was your biggest roadblock when you were at least taking the exam or studying for the exam?
My biggest roadblock, I mean, I'm gonna say, for me, what was going on with me personally. I mean, again, I moved, and I have a job already. So I work as a caregiver for the family that I worked for before. But not only that, I'm also their house manager, and so I'm lucky enough to live in the home that they provide for me. But my work is constant. I'm on all the time, and I was really trying to get into the role that I'm doing with this family. And so I don't think I'm not very good at planning my own schedule. I can plan anybody else's schedule, but when it comes to me, that is out the window. There's no, it's, oh, you should see my Google Calendar. It's nothing on there, and I've got a full one. And so I think it was really hard for me to sit down and be like, okay, you need to do, because I read one of your, I think at the beginning of your program, you say you're supposed to do what, 2 hours on the weekday? Is that right? Weekday, and then on the weekend, 6 hours or something like that.
Something
There
like
was
that.
like,
I
you
mean,
were,
like that's what
yeah,
I did, and I kind of just show people. I'm like, this is kind of what I did, and like the way I make my study plan is like very adaptable. So like if you're like, I can do this, that's good. But the biggest thing that I tell people is try to plan it that you have a day off, so you can get your life back.
yeah. And that was for me at the time. I didn't have any days off. So scheduling was just like getting to like living where I work, and then trying to study here was hard. So then I had to try to schedule a time to go to a library to study, and then that interrupts my work. And so it was just really, I think it was just I wasn't prepared for the amount of time I needed to study, because you do need to take that time. And you can do it. I mean, if you are one of those people that can do it in increments during the day, that's fine. That's great. That's amazing. But I'm not. I need to sit down and like focus for hours on it if I'm going to study. And I was just not getting that. So time was really hard.
But you figured it out.
I did figure it out this last time. So the second time I took the exam, I tried to study even more. When I failed the second time, I was like, holy shit, how am I going to do this with Christmas coming up and the holidays? Thanksgiving and the holidays were so rough. But I didn't tell anybody that I failed the exam. Nobody asked me, because in my life right now, I'm not doing PTA. I'm going to try, but at the moment, I'm doing this job. So nobody was really, I guess nobody was really either interested or wanted to push the subject. So nobody asked me. So I was like, I'm low key, didn't tell anybody I failed, and kind of just made it so I just focused on myself. I was like, okay, Dustin, here's your plan. Here's what you're going to do. And I made the plan I forced myself to take the time. So instead of watching Game of Thrones at nighttime to getting ready for bed, I'd watch one of your videos, or watch a couple of videos, yours and any other people that I was studying with, and I'd do my notes and stuff like that, which is something I wasn't doing before. I wasn't taking the extra time. I utilized my time a lot better this last time. So.
And then how did you feel on exam day? I know you said you were like nervous like the second time, and that's kind of what got you.
The second time you mean, how did I feel on the third exam or the second one?
Yeah,
So
because I remember you were telling like you were like super nervous and whatnot.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I was super nervous on all of them,
time,
but yeah, every single time you're super nervous, because I mean, this is your life and you've spent a lot of time. You worked, like every single person who is listening to this right now who's studying, you guys worked really hard to get where you are, and you deserve to be there. And it just feels when you take that exam and if you fail, that all that work was wasted, but it wasn't. It's just a roadblock that you just have to overcome. So I walked into this, the first exam, really kind of like knowing that this isn't going to be easy, and it wasn't, and I failed. I knew. And then when I got the red mark saying you failed, I was like, okay. I took a deep breath, and I was like, this is kind of what you expected. When I failed the second time, it was a shocker. I thought I had done so much better, and then I come to find out that I missed it by one question, and that was just devastating. Because I actually left. There were a couple questions when I left the exam. I knew that I'd answered wrong, and your brain gets into this. My brain, at least, the way I work, my brain gets in this like format when I'm taking a test that I see an answer and I'm like, oh, I know that. That's it. So I went into the third exam, a lot more. I was still nervous. I was still freaking nervous because, like, again, I didn't want to take another 3 months of studying and time, and I wanted to spend time with friends and family. But I went in there and I felt more confident, but still scared. But I felt more confident because I'd actually taken the time and effort to do the studying and the stuff that I needed to do.
And that paid off because you did well. What was your score this last time?
Oh gosh, I can't even remember now. It was like I was like, what is it, passing a 600? No, what is
You were like
passing?
650 something.
Yeah, I was
So
like,
like you passed by like a mile. You were good to
I
go.
was like, what? I saw that. I was like, I cannot believe that. But when I walked out of that exam, I kind of walked out with a little skip in my step. I kind of felt, I was like, yeah, that was it. That was it. Because I think I don't know if you were going to ask this, but the hardest subject for me, I feel, were I don't know why dermatones and monotones were myotones were just like I couldn't for some reason grasp. I should have been able to, but I couldn't grasp everything, and I wasn't connecting the dots. For some reason, I really focused on it this last time, and that and all the nerves was just what got me. And this time, I really focused on the things that I was having a hard time with, and that's what they were asking me the entire time. So
Don't neglect those subjects that throw you for a
don't
loop because they'll
neglect.
show up.
They will show up. So
For me, it was definitely all that like, oh, what was it? It was like pediatric reflexes and stuff like that. Like someone just asked me today, and I'm like, they're like, how do you know when they integrate? I'm like, well, like they have to kind of integrate before like you do something and whatnot. And that's what was kind of working for me, but I couldn't tell you the exact month, but I could probably get close enough. Like definitely those are the things that are going to show up, or you study the crap out of them and none of them show up.
And they don't show up. You're like, why is this even on the for PTA? For PTA, I was kind of like, most of the time I was like, why is this even on the exam? When am I gonna have to deal with this? Like, am I ever gonna really do it? But you are.
You are.
You're gonna. I'm listening to my classmates who passed, and I'm like, they're telling me all these things that they're doing now, and I'm like, you really have to do that? Oh, well, okay. Well, I guess I got something to look forward to.
I have a classmate just wound care. I was like, wow.
I kind of would do wound care. I loved one of my clients had an open wound for like 7 months because he had too much hardware and it wouldn't close the wound up. So we had to do suction and all the time, and I was changing his wounds. I loved it. So might be something I'll like.
I like feet. Like I like treating feet, and some people are like, this is disgusting. Don't ever come anywhere near me. And I'm just like, that's fine. I'll keep my feet to myself. But it's all good. And that's what's great about this profession. Like you can go into one thing and like completely switch gears and go somewhere else. Like, there's people in my like that have helped out, and they're in every single setting across the spectrum, like from schools to sniffs to acute care. It's wild.
I love it. I love the when we went out and had to do our clinicals. My first clinical was in the general population. It was just a PT office, and which was fine. It was next to a car factory, so it was a lot of knee and joint pain. So it was fine. I think it was only 2 or 3 weeks. Then the other two I had was I worked for geriatrics, and then I did with a lot of dementia and Alzheimer's, and then I went to pediatrics. So I hit like all the whole spectrum, and it's really interesting to know that we as PTAs can go into almost all those fields along many other ones, such as wound care. When I think you said that in one of your videos, and I was like, are you serious? We can go into wound care? Like that is something, and that's what's amazing is you're not just a PTA. Like you just don't flex people or stretch people. You can do so much more. So
it's pretty cool.
I think that's one thing that our school kind of didn't inform us about. Like we were all basically told, oh, you're going to go into this is what you're going to go into outpatient is really what everything was. And now I'm hearing from all my classmates all the amazing things that they're doing out there.
I love it. It's just amazing. Yeah, so not to abruptly shift the gears or anything, but it's been a long time coming, but you did it. You did it. So how'd you feel? How'd you feel when you opened the FSBPT and you were like, oh hey,
I cried. I was literally crying. So when I was living in Indiana, going through school, another thing that happened, like another thing that was going on was I was also getting divorced during class, during the school. Yeah. It was for the best. but I lived with these my friends who took me in during the divorce. Like they just no questions asked kind of took me in, and they literally supported me this entire time with love, love and support, and like pushed me to go to class, pushed me to continue, pushed me to like continue on this path. And they were the first people I called, and I was like crying, being like, "It's your guys are the reason I'm here." Blah, blah. But it was also like it was just so amazing to feel like it was worth the time, it was worth the effort, and worth the years to get to this point, and that there is a future for me. I think one of the biggest things I didn't realize as a person who didn't go to college is that you can get stuck in a profession such as caregiving, which is not, I don't mean stuck. I love being a caregiver. It's one of my, it's awesome. But things change, and sometimes you need a new path, and that path can take a while to get to. So now I feel like I have so many more paths that I have available for me, such as wound care, such as pediatrics, and geriatrics, or even what I might do sometime next is travel PTA. I think that's an amazing option for people out there. And so it was like when I got that, I was like, when I got the passing score, I was just like breathing. Wow, that tightness just unclenched.
It's so relieving.
It's so relieving. It's so relieving.
I was so excited. That was a good day. Like everyone was studying. I had like 12 of you guys all send me your pass circles like that day. I had to go hunt down Kira to ask her if she passed. She passed too. I remember when she found out you didn't pass the second time you took it. She was just like, "Man, I know Dustin's been busting his ass." She's just like, "We're gonna pass this time." So she was manifesting for you too.
Oh, that's awesome. It was good. It was a really great day. I'm still celebrating. I mean, how can you not celebrate for months on? Like, how can you not?
I still look at mine sometimes to like.
Yeah, I look. Yeah, I was looking at like. So yeah,
I was like, I did it. I got it.
And when the paperwork comes in the mail, it's just another like moment. You're like, here it is. Here's my certificate saying you did it. So yeah.
It's nice. There's my piece of paper. It's a great piece of paper. It opens so many doors. It's awesome. And so what would be one piece of advice you would offer any PTA student at any point in their journey?
Well, I think I might be.
It can be more than one.
This. Yeah. So I'm an introvert. You might not think that seeing me now, but like I love being by myself and spending time. But when one of the first things that I did when I got into class is I knew I was going to need the help, having gone through all the classes to get into the PTA program. I don't know what was your requirement GPA wise to get into your PTA program? Was it a 4.0?
To get into the program? Like in the prerequisite classes?
No, to actually get into your PTA program. What were your we had to have a 4.0 GPA to get into our program.
To get in?
Because we had 100 applicants, but only 25 spots. So basically you had to have a 4.0 for everything that your prereq classes plus the pre PTA class as well. Anyway, so we had to work really hard to get there. And I knew that during all that time, I had some classes and classmates that really supported me throughout that time. So in the program, my advice would be really lift each other up. I started the Facebook group for our class. I also created the Google Drive where everybody dumped in their study guides, their work, everything that they created. Like so many people created different things, and it helped us who learned differently to learn in different ways. And then we also almost every single person made a Quizlet of every single subject that we were studying. So my advice would be make sure that you lean on others, you ask for help, which is one of the things that is hardest for people to ask is for help, and accept that help, and also be willing to help other people too, because that helps me learn. Like going into a library with my classmates and going on the dry marker board and being like, well, this is what I learned today, helps me learn even more and helps retain the information. So I say learn, work with each other to get where you're going. So if you're taking the exam and you're still wherever you are with your classmates, if you're about to take the NPTE, work together with them, like study together, find some people and just really get down and dirty with it, because having that support can really help you get to the place you need to be.
I agree. The competition's over now. Just got to teamwork.
That the competition is over. You just need to, like, it was really hard to, like, we all talked about it when we got into the PTA program. We were all before trying to get in, we were all fighting to get in, and now we're all classmates and we're all looking around like we no longer have to fight. We are the PTA students. And so it was really, like, I think 2 or 3 weeks before we really started becoming friends and like realizing, oh wow, we need to be here for each other to do this. And so yeah, you're not fighting for, I mean, there's so many jobs out there, so it's not like you're fighting, you want the person next to you to fail so you can get their job, because there's another job right around the corner. So work together.
Exactly. Well, Dustin, thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm sure you've inspired some people. Where can they find you if they want to contact you?
You find me on Facebook, Dustin Hergert. If you can find me, I don't know anything about, but yeah, I'm on Facebook, Instagram. I do have a TikTok for it's called Sunny's Honey, for my honey business that I do TikTok.
I'm gonna follow it. I'm literally gonna follow it. I literally
Also,
I want to follow it.
I also have Sunny's Honey Instagram and Facebook. But yeah, so yeah.
I love that. Well, thank you so much, Justin. Appreciate you, and we will talk to you soon. Thank you, everybody, for listening.